Stoicism began with a shipwreck. 2,300 years ago, a guy named Zeno of Citium got shipwrecked off the coast of Athens and lost everything. His cargo, his wealth, his entire business, poof, gone. And you know what he said? I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck. That moment of total loss became the birth of Stoicism. And here's what's going to blow your mind just a little bit. The same philosophy that helped a broke merchant rebuild his life is now the secret operating system behind some of the most successful entrepreneurs on this planet this very day. But here is what nobody is telling you about Stoicism in business. 87.7% of entrepreneurs struggle with at least one mental health issue or another. More than half of them experience anxiety. 60% face a higher risk of burnout compared to all my traditional employees out there. And according to Gallup, entrepreneurial stress runs at about 2.5 times higher than the average corporate worker. These aren't small numbers, ladies and gentlemen. These are actual conditions of building something from nothing. So the question isn't whether entrepreneurs need a mental framework for navigating chaos. Obviously, they do. The question is which one of those mental frameworks actually works. And in the next 20 to 25 minutes or so, I'm going to show you why a philosophy born on a painted porch in Athens is now the operating system behind some of the most successful entrepreneurs on this planet. This is not motivational fluff, ladies and gentlemen. This is precision engineering for your entrepreneurial mind.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my fellow success seekers? Welcome back to another episode of Your Success DNA, the podcast for my aspiring wannabe better folk out there, my aspiring entrepreneurs, and even my 9-to-5 escapees. Each episode delivers mindset shifts, habit upgrades, all mixed with a dose of rebellion so that you can break free from convention to build not just a business, but a life aligned with your version of success. And if you know someone who dreams of ditching the grind, still makes time for a little self-help, a little personal development, spice and salsa right there, go ahead and forward this episode to them. As I alluded to earlier, today we're talking about the entrepreneurial mindset. We're going to talk about applying Stoicism to business and why ancient wisdom is the modern entrepreneur's secret weapon. There's 3 things I want you to come away with. I try to give you 3 things, very important things to come away with every episode. First, we're diving into the complete historical foundation of Stoicism from Zeno of Citium's founding around 300 BC to how Chrysippus systematized it into a comprehensive philosophical school that would outlast almost every competing tradition of antiquity, and why its 4 cardinal rules are the most relevant to business today than ever before. Second, as if that wasn't enough, I'm revealing the explosive modern revival of Stoicism in business, how sales of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations climbed from 16,000 copies back in 2012 to over 100,000 copies in 2019, and why Ryan Holiday and his Daily Stoic brand have sold more than 5 million copies across 40 languages, and how NFL teams are using these principles to win championships. And then finally, last but not least, third, we're exposing both the power and the criticism of modern Stoicism, from Georgetown professors Nancy Sherman's warning about broicism to how cognitive behavioral therapy was directly inspired by Stoic principles, and why this even freaking matters to you for your entrepreneurial journey, for even your self-help journey, okay? But today we're leaning into our entrepreneurial side here. So here's something that's going to challenge everything you think you know about entrepreneurial success. The most successful entrepreneurs are not the ones who avoid the problems, who dodge the BS that flies around. Nope. They are the ones who have learned to love them. And that's not some toxic positivity bullshit. That's 2,000 years of battle-tested philosophy that has been pressure-tested by emperors, by prisoners of war, and by founders of companies that you probably use every single day. You're probably using it right now, okay? So here's what I want you to picture this. It's September 9th, 1965. The pilot James Stockdale is flying over North Vietnam in his A-4 Skyhawk and gets hit by enemy fire. As his plane spirals down towards the ground, he has maybe about 30 seconds before impact. And in that moment, facing capture, facing torture, facing possible death, you know what he whispers to himself? I'm leaving the world of technology and entering the world of Epictetus. Yeah, Epictetus, a Greek philosopher who had been enslaved and knew what it meant to have everything taken away from him. Stockdale spends the next 7.5 years as a prisoner of war, tortured repeatedly, kept in solitary confinement. And he doesn't just survive, He organizes resistance among the other prisoners using a code called BACKUS, BACKUS. And that stands for don't bow, stay off the air, admit no crimes, never kiss them goodbye, and unity over self. When author James Collins later asked him about who didn't make it out, Stockton's answer was a bit chilling. And he said, quote, "The optimists, the ones who kept saying that they're going to be home by Christmas, then Easter, then Thanksgiving. They all died of a broken heart," unquote. Yeah, the lesson now known as the Stockdale paradox is this, my friends. Confront the brutal reality of your situation while maintaining unwavering faith that you will prevail. Yeah, it's the same insight that Viktor Frankl arrived at inside those Nazi concentration camps, which he documented in A Man's Search for Meaning. That's the last human freedom is the ability to choose your response to any given set of circumstances. It's about the only freedom you really have that they can never take away from you. Now imagine you're sitting in your apartment at 2 a.m. You're staring at your laptop screen. Your startup is 3 months from running out of cash. Your co-founder, yep, they just bailed out on you. Your biggest client, yeah, they're threatening to leave. And you're sitting there thinking, well, maybe I should just go back to my corporate job. That moment, right then, or whatever version of that moment is for you, that is your North Vietnam. That is your spiraling down into a crash moment. And how you respond to it will determine whether you become the entrepreneur who builds something extraordinary or the one who gives up 3 feet away from striking gold, okay? So let me walk you through the complete architecture of Stoicism and how it applies to your entrepreneurial journey. We're going to start off with the historic foundation and a little bit of why this matters. It was founded around, like I mentioned earlier, 300 BC by Zeno of Citium in Athens. Stoicism held a numerous influence across Greece and the Roman Empire for about, 500 years? And it was later systematized by Chrysippus, who formalized Stoic logic and ethics into a comprehensive philosophical school that would eventually outlast almost every other competing tradition of antiquity. Its 3 greatest practitioners couldn't have been more different from one another. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome, Seneca was a wealthy statesman and a playwright, and Epictetus had been enslaved. Yet all 3 of them arrived at the same core insight. The quality of your life depends not on what happens to you on the outside, but how you respond to it on the inside. That insight rests on 4 cardinal virtues that become your entrepreneurial foundation. And they are wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Let me give you a little bit more on each one of those. Wisdom is the ability to see things clearly. In business, this means cutting straight through the noise, understanding market realities, and making decisions based on facts, not emotions. You got me? Okay. Courage, the willingness to act despite fear. We're all afraid. Get over it. Every entrepreneur knows this feeling. Launching before you feel ready, having difficult conversations with employees or investors, and pivoting when your original plan just isn't pulling, right? It isn't doing what it's supposed to do. It's not working. And then temperance. This is the discipline to moderate yourself. This is saying no to opportunities that don't align with your vision. You have a vision, right? Managing your energy and resources and avoiding the shiny object system. Ooh, what was that over there? Yeah, avoiding the shiny object syndrome that kills most startups and most beginning entrepreneurs. And finally, justice, the commitment to doing right by others. Yeah, that ends up causing right by you. Building products that actually serve other customers, serve other people, treating employees fairly, and creating value rather than just focusing on extracting it. Yeah, right? If you create the value and put it out there, you will extract value in return. Trust me on that. For Stoics, practicing these virtues wasn't abstract exercise. It was sufficient for a well-lived life. Yeah, for entrepreneurs, they're sufficient for a well-built business. And you can think about this beyond just entrepreneurship. You can talk about it inside relationship. Following those 4 principles is sufficient for a well-built relationship, a well-built life outside of business. Now, at the heart of Stoicism sits what's called the dichotomy of control, right? I want you to remember this one, dichotomy of control. The explicit division between what is within your power and what is not. And we've scratched this one on the surface a couple of times across different episodes. Please go back and check those out. Epictetus put it simply. He said, some things are within your control and some things are not. Oh my God, how simple is that? Your effort is within your control. What you do, right? What effort you put into things. Market conditions are not within your control. Your response to a failed launch is within your control. Whether a competitor undercuts your pricing is not within your control. This single distinction, the dichotomy of control, when you truly internalize it, it eliminates enormous amounts of wasted energy, wasted anxiety, and reactive decision-making in a whole realm of areas in your life and in your business. Premeditatio malorum, literally the premeditation of evils. This isn't pessimism, it's strategic preparation. Tim Ferriss built this into what he calls fear setting. Instead of defining goals, you define your fears. Stick with me here for a second. You visualize worst-case scenarios. You identify what you could do to prevent them, and then you map out how you would recover if they happened anyway. You follow me? You picture those worst-case scenarios. You figure out, okay, here's some ways I can prevent that from even happening. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make a recovery plan in case they happen anyway. It sounds basic, but so many people don't do this. Ferriss calls it the most powerful exercise that he does, crediting it with his biggest business wins and his most catastrophic mistakes averted.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
Amor fati. This is the love of fate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The obstacles become the way." Interestingly, philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche later adopted amor fati as one of his own central concepts, which tells you something about how far-reaching this Stoic idea actually is. This isn't just passive acceptance and rolling over and turning the other cheek. It's strategic engagement with reality as it is, not as you wish it to be or as you wish it were. The business world has noticed, ladies and gentlemen, and the numbers do not lie. Sales of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations climbed from 16,000 copies in 2012 to over 100,000 copies in 2019. During the first part of 2020, and we all know what happened in the year of 2020, printed sales of Meditations jumped 28%. Ebook sales of Seneca's Letters from a Stoic surged 306%. Yeah, Stoicism-related content saw a 400% growth on certain online platforms. This is not a passing trend. This is a philosophical migration. How about that one, right? Ryan Holiday, described by The Independent as leading the charge for Stoicism, has sold more than 5 million copies of his book across more than 40 languages. His Daily Stoic brand, which includes books, a newsletter reaching, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and a podcast, shout out to a podcaster out there, this all has become arguably the most influential modern platform for Stoic ideas. His 2014 book, The Obstacle is the Way, became a manual not just for entrepreneurs, but for NFL teams. The New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks both invited Holiday to their headquarters to discuss the book's ideas. His Stoic Virtue series, completed in 2025, with Wisdom Takes Work, stands as one of the most commercially successful philosophy projects in modern publishing. Tim Ferriss's TED Talk on Stoicism and fear setting has drawn millions of views and remains one of the most watched TED Talks on the subject of mental resilience. Maybe I'll knock it off someday. I don't know. Jack Dorsey, co-founder of Twitter, practices Stoic-influenced routines of meditation and fasting. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, embraces Memento Mori, the Stoic reminder of mortality, as a framework for prioritizing meaningful work over just material accumulation. Yeah, lots of us need to focus in that area. Yvon Chouinard built Patagonia on a principle that could have come straight from Marcus Aurelius himself. Do no harm and prioritize legacy over personal gain. And in the tech and venture capital world, Naval Ravikant, entrepreneur, investor, and one of the most followed voices in Silicon Valley, has spoken extensively about Stoic and Stoic-adjacent principles as the foundation of his approach to both business and life. The Stoic thread running through modern entrepreneurship, I don't think it's an accident. I think it's really prevalent and having huge positive impacts. Here's what makes this more than just philosophical speculation. Cognitive behavioral therapy, and you've heard me mention this a few times in the past 4 or 5 episodes, one of the most evidence-based psychological treatments in the world, was directly modeled on Stoic principles by its founders, Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis. Both acknowledge that Stoic philosophers shaped their core understanding and that it's the meaning of events, not the events themselves, that affect people. Let me repeat that. It's that important. It's the meaning of events, not the events themselves, that affect people. Beck made this explicit in 2007. Ellis built his Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT, on the same Stoic foundations, directly citing Epictetus as a primary source. The CBT Stoicism lineage isn't just an accident. No, it's a 2,000-year-old insight that has survived rigorous clinical testing. When you practice Stoic principles, you're not just following ancient wisdom. Dudes with gray hair, even bald dudes. You are actually using techniques that have been validated by modern psychology. Yeah, check that off. There you go, right there. And it's worth noting that contemporary academics are taking this seriously as well. Massimo Pigliucci, a professor of philosophy at CUNY and the author of How to Be a Stoic, has been one of the most prominent voices arguing that Stoicism isn't just pop self-help. And you know how much I like pop self-help, he says sarcastically. It's a genuine, rigorous philosophical practice with real intellectual depth. Let that one sink in for a moment, would you? Now, let's be really balanced here. The criticism deserves a fair hearing, right? I don't want to be all unicorns and rainbows here. Georgetown professor Nancy Sherman has warned that Stoicism often attracts hyper-masculine interpretations, right? What some are calling broicism, right? A version, and I think this happens in everything, right? There's always some far right or far left fringe version of something good. So you take something like Stoicism and someone's going to twist it and swing it to one side or the other. So anyway, like I was saying, what some people are calling broicism, this is a version that glorifies emotional suppression and invulnerability. Yeah, we've talked about this here a couple of times, right? Sherman wrote her own book, Stoic Wisdom, in direct response, and I think she's right to push back a bit. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, author of Anti-Fragile, made the same point but came at it from a different angle. His concept of anti-fragility, the idea that some systems actually get stronger under stress rather than simply resisting it, is deeply compatible with Stoic thinking. But Taleb insists the goal isn't to become unemotional. No, it's about replacing unhealthy emotions with healthy ones. Well, duh. You could call this the domestication of emotion, not the elimination of it. And I'm a big fan of this, right? I grew up in a 3-generation military household where men and emotions were kind of separated a lot. And I didn't like that. But of course, being raised that way, it still impacts you. I was in my late teens, early 20s before I saw my father cry for the first time. So I began to embrace my emotions over time and learned to domesticate them, right? It was, again, it's not about simply getting rid of them. It's about learning to understand them and replacing unhealthy emotions with healthy ones. Academics have also questioned the commercialization of Stoicism, as they should. At a 2016 Stoicon conference, yes, they have Stoicons, attendees challenged whether Holiday's best-selling approach even qualifies as genuine Stoicism. That tension, I think, is healthy. Anything should be debated, right? I have this opinion, you have that opinion. Well, let's talk about it. Philosophy should be debated. And it has been debated for hundreds of years, thousands of years. But here's what matters for you as an entrepreneur. The core principles work. Boom, there it is. A little mic drop right there for you. Whether you call it Stoicism, whether you call it cognitive behavioral therapy, or whether you just call it good business sense, the ability to focus on what you can control, prepare for obstacles, and find opportunity in adversity is what separates successful entrepreneurs from those that just throw their hands up and say, F it. Okay. And this comprehensive breakdown of entrepreneurs' mental operating system is hitting you right in the gut. Good. Then that means you need to get on the Unleash Your Success DNA newsletter. This is exactly the same kind of contrarian, historically grounded insight that I like to share every week with inspiring entrepreneurs, those who are devoted to getting better and maybe even want to escape their 9-to-5, all of whom refuse to accept surface-level business advice, surface-level pop self-help. Each issue, I strive to deliver mindset shifts and habit upgrades, again, with that little mix of rebellion in there, all helping you break free from convention so that you can build not just a business, but a life aligned with your version of success. No recycled tips, no motivational hoo-ha or fluff, just the truth about what it really takes to build something meaningful, whether that's a business, a life, a relationship, whatever it is you're looking to build. Here's why this matters beyond just handling life, business, obstacles, and stress better. Research has found that despite working longer hours, entrepreneurs with a strong psychological framework are no more likely to experience burnout than our salaried employees, than our folks doing corporate 9-to-5 jobs. Their risk really is actually lower because of what researchers call psychological unity, a great sense of meaning, a great sense of autonomy and satisfaction. Entrepreneurs, on average, are happier. The bigger paradigm here is that most business education treats entrepreneurship like a technical skill, right? Learn the right tactics, follow the right steps, and you will succeed. But that's not how it works. And many of you are nodding. No shit, Tracy. Totally not how it works. Entrepreneurship is fundamentally a psychological game, which is one of the reasons why I started this podcast so many years, 2007, way back when. I was on my entrepreneurial journey and I realized this. It hit me like a ton of bricks. It's about making decisions under uncertainty. It's about handling rejection. Whoa, that was one of my weak spots. It's about persisting through failure. It's about maintaining a vision when everyone else around you thinks you're crazy. Yeah, and you know what? You might be, but that's okay. How many crazy people have created some amazing products and tools and tips and techniques and civilizations? Who knows? I don't have that research in front of me. Stoicism does not promise you an easy path. Let's be honest here. But it does promise you a clear path. And while your competitors are out there burning out, they're getting paralyzed by analysis, and they're giving up at the first sign of trouble, you're going to be operating from a place of unshakable mental clarity. 23 years of human wisdom, pressure tested by emperors, prisoners of war, and the founders of billion-dollar companies. That is the entrepreneur's mindset. That is the complete scope of Stoicism in modern business. Not a retreat from emotion, but a framework for channeling it. Not passive acceptance, but a strategic engagement with reality as it really is. Stoicism doesn't promise an easy path. As I mentioned, Marcus Aurelius wrote, quote, "The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting," unquote. AKA, the obstacle becomes the way. There's a Mandalorian joke in here somewhere, but I can't think of it right now. So here's your whiskered wisdom for this episode. Here's your action step for tonight. Before you go to bed, practice a modern version of Marcus Aurelius' evening reflection. Write down 3 things that challenged you in your business today. And if you can't think of something from today, think about something from yesterday. And for each one of those 3 that you wrote down, ask yourself these questions. What did this teach me about myself? What did this teach me about my business? And how can I use this experience to become a stronger entrepreneur tomorrow? You're not just solving business problems here. You're building a mental framework that will carry you through every damn challenge your entrepreneurial journey is going to throw at you. And it is going to throw some shit at you. Let's just be honest. You got to be ready to wipe the caca off your face. And that's the difference between entrepreneurs who build something lasting and those who give up when things just get a little hard. Listen, Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations because he was having an easy time as the emperor of Rome. He wrote them because he was dealing with shit. He was dealing with plagues. He was dealing with wars. He was dealing with betrayals and the constant pressure of just leading an empire. Seneca didn't develop his philosophy while lounging around in luxury. He developed it while navigating the deadly politics of Nero's court. Epictetus didn't teach resistance from a position of comfort. No, he taught it as someone who had been enslaved and knew what it meant to have every damn thing he had taken away. These aren't armchair philosophers here. No, these are real world practitioners. They developed these ideas under pressure in the real world when the stakes were literally life and death. And that's exactly why they work for entrepreneurs like you and like me. The question isn't whether this philosophy is relevant to your business. The question is how much longer can you afford to operate your business without it? Yeah, let that one sink in. Your business challenges, they are not unique. I don't care if you're creating something brand new, no one's ever seen it before. The feelings you're experiencing, the doubts, the fear, the overwhelm. Entrepreneurs have been dealing with the same damn emotions for thousands of years. The difference is now you have a framework that has been battle tested by some of the most successful people in history, validated by modern psychology and proven in the trenches of modern business. You don't need more validation. You got it all. I just proved it to you. You need better philosophy. You don't need more tactics. You need better thinking. And you do not need an easier plan. You need a stronger mind. Think successfully and take action.
Thanks for listening to Your Success DNA podcast. Whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, we have the tools and inspiration that you need to take your life to the next level. So stay tuned for more game-changing advice in our upcoming episodes. And hey, before you go, a quick reminder to check out our past episodes of Your Success DNA for more inspiring stories and practical advice. And if you've loved what you heard, leave us a review and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Let's all level up our lives together, shall we? Remember, your success is in your DNA.